Rolly Romero, Chris, did you catch? No, let's rewind because actually Stephen Fulton was not even on the actual undercard. You can say he was on the prelims, Chris. He was on the free cards that you were able to watch on Amazon. I was surprised by that. Fulton, obviously, his last time out was defeated against Naoya Inoue, but he's still a name, man. He still has a name for himself. Still a former champion, one of the best at 122, now fighting at 126. Didn't make the main card, but he did earn a victory. He got dropped at the end, Chris.
Yeah, again, that was it was a very entertaining fight just to start off, Gio, and a lot of people, like we said, wanted to see how he would respond after his first defeat at the hands of the monster. So it was one of those fights where like you just had to tune in, and like you said, he got dropped, Gio. You almost thought that, oh, this is not gonna go his way. Again, a toe to toe match, back and forth. Both guys had their moments, razor thin. At the end of the day, but yeah, man, Stephen Bolton goes away with the victory, and I gotta say, Gio, I think he averted a near disaster, in my opinion.
Iceman says Fulton didn't deserve that win, in my opinion. And man, it almost looked like he was gonna get stopped. And yeah, that was gonna be a disaster, man, because you don't even make it to the main card, and you almost got stopped. But yeah, I mean, he's back on the winning column. You can say 126. Man, he's got to be more prepared than this if he wants to compete. Yeah, he fought Carlos Castro, who was 30-2, only 14 knockouts. But as we said, he was able to drop Fulton. And you see the scorecards there: 95, 94, 93, 96, 94, 95. So at the end of the day, split decision. Fulton gets the nod, and he earns his 22nd victory. Stephen Fulton. Castro 30 years old. Fulton 30 as well. We'll see where he can kind of get into the mix here. We do got to move on. We got to talk about your boy who opened up the show. You can say the pay-per-view card. Rolly, Rolee, Chris Rolly. Rolando Romero, 16-2 now, 13 KOs. Did not get the stoppage, but he did get a unanimous decision win. After that loss this year, earlier in March against Pitbull Cruz, he's back, defeats Manuel Jaimes.
Yeah, again, Rollies, I've said it time and time again, he's good for boxing. You know, Outside of that square circle, super entertaining. Always has something to say. You know, he always makes us laugh. He's just always there to put on a show. But this performance was very lackluster, and again, just like Fulton, it was one of those where you want to keep an eye and see how they bounce back from their most recent defeat. And again, this one, if he would have lost, let's say he would have you know been knocked out. This one would have been one of those fights where like, oh yeah, Broly's is done. But he edges out a victory. Very lackluster performance. Didn't impress, many people. Again, it's almost like he's losing a little bit of steam of what made him so exciting inside that ring. So again, Broly's is good for boxing, front of the show, but very lackluster performance in my opinion.
Yeah, man, there wasn't much in it, man. I think boring would be the appropriate word, Chris. We can say it. As we said, Rolly, friend of the show, entertaining guy outside the ring, inside the ring. Didn't offer much entertainment. I think, obviously, anytime Rolly fights, people want that KO. He talks about KOs all the time. When they asked him in the press conference before the fight, they said, Rolly's is back. What does that mean? He said, somebody's getting knocked out. That's what that means. But, it didn't deliver this time around. But, I mean, got the W at the end of the day. And we'll see where he takes it, man. We'll see where he takes it. That opener. But I do want to shout out friend of the show as well, Lawrence King. Got that W, 17-1 now. Got a stoppage in the second round against Vaughn Williams. Lawrence King, who's very good friends with Canelo, was one of his main sparring partners when Canelo had that undisputed run at 168 when he defeated Callum Smith, Billy Joe, and Caleb Plant, of course. So shout out to him. Shout out to Lawrence King. And I mean, let's go ahead. Let's let's get Lara and Danny Garcia out the way, Chris. Let's just keep it real. I mean, we came out here, we um predicted that Lara was gonna win. Let me go ahead and show you guys the poll because a lot of people were actually rooting for Danny. They thought Danny was gonna win. If you see the poll here, out of nearly 600 votes, 56%, and that number was a lot higher the last time we checked it. But 56% said Garcia was going to win. Only 44 at Islandi. Now, give me your thoughts on this. Danny Garcia never been dropped in his career. Obviously, never been stopped. Got stopped this time around at middleweight against a 41-year-old Eddie Islandi Lara.
First of all, we were not shocked that that Lara won. We were not shocked that Danny took this W. But you and I predicted that it was going to be by decision. You know, I know we talked about, or at least I talked about this on the previous podcast, that Danny's last 4 or 5 years have been, you know, that it's been a career where that's not the way you want to finish your last 4 or 5 years. So this kind of just proves, you know, just how on the decline Danny has been, you know, at the tail end of his career. We know that, you know, COVID happened. We've heard about, you know, his struggle with depression and all that. But yeah, that just showed on this fight. Gio, he did not want to be there. Uh, this is the fight that I call that I would say it was the boring fight. Again, it was two good name fighters that the boxing fans recognize. Of course, we know it's 5 years, 6 years too late, but I think a part of us always wants to say, you know what, these two guys will have one last great fight in them. You know, good fighters that people recognize throughout the years. You always say they have one left in them, and this was not the case. Like you said, Danny Garcia, you know, TKO, knocked out. Not something we predicted, not something we expected, but at the end of the day, not shocking the way he's been handling his career the last 5 and 6 years. Danny, I want to say, like, in his prime, he was that one guy that overachieved with like the limited skills that he had. You know, he was just one of those guys that I for most of his fights I'm like, he's gonna fall short. He fell short to a bunch of those big A-listers, but there were some moments like that con fight where he surprised you and he overachieved. It's just been disappointing to not see that continue, you know, the last 5 years. So I I I can't defend Danny Boy on this one. So he's got a point, man.
All right, what else do we have here? Big Bro says, I knew Lara was too much, but wasn't expecting the overrated Danny to quit. I mean, Chris, can we feel confident in saying that Danny Garcia quit? He literally took a knee. Punch didn't look like much, ran into it, thought about it, took a knee. Lara kind of taunted him. Danny Garcia went back to the corner. I thought at first that it was an Angel Garcia decision, right? That he was just saving his fighter. But when they showed the replay, they showed Danny walking over. When that round was over, said something, and then that's when Angel stopped it. So not quite sure what he said, but it looks like he quit.
Yeah, first of all, I'm gonna say it blatantly. Yeah, he quit. Yeah, looking back, first when you first saw the fight, you saw Angel say something, and it seemed at first that it was the Angel that called the fight. But I mean, that's dad. That's your head coach. That's your dad. He knows your body language, and of course, your dad's always going to protect you. You know, when he sees that you're just not mentally there, physically there. I feel like, you know, he was just reading what Danny, you know, said, or he was just, you know, taking the action that Danny wanted to do. But sometimes you gotta say that fighter, you know, from your opponent. So yeah, no, straight out, Danny quit. He's just not the same Danny. You know, one of my takeaways from this was like, you know, when we think of Danny in his prime, when you think of Angel during Danny's prime, they were the two. Not Danny, but Angel was like one of the loudest people in every single room that Danny was in. Any fight that Danny was in, Angel was the loudest guy talking the most crap, and nowhere to be seen, man. Again, Danny had a good career, not a great career. He could have done more, in my opinion, at the end. But just, I think it's done. It's over. Danny has to retire.
Man, Big Bro says Danny went out sad like his overrated career, getting gifts against Herrera, among others. He also adds he automatically should not be considered for the Hall of Fame for that, if he was even in consideration. Yeah, we look at his career here. We spoke about it last time out. Very inactive in the past few years. He hadn't fought since July of 2022.
Yeah,
Before that, he fought in December of 2020. So he fought Jose Benavidez Jr. at 154 in the year of 2022. Fought Errol Spence Jr. at 147 2020. Had a couple fights that year, but I mean, yeah, as you said, it seemed like during COVID, that's when it kind of went downhill for him. Inactive. He had the mental breakdown stuff that he spoke on this time around. Went for history, 160 pounds. I mean, he didn't even win at 154. He didn't win a belt at 154. He didn't fight a real 154 pounder. Went straight to 160, and even Lara. And I'm hearing this was a catchweight, right? You see Lara's weight there, 157, basically 156 and 3/4.
props to Lara for being the first man to stop PSG.
Yeah, let's go to some comments here. Broke his dad's heart. You could see it, says Iceman. He also adds, don't know if they would put him back on a main card. Now, this was a co-main, Chris.
That's
I
crazy.
mean, we're gonna get into Plant McCumby, which was actually a very good fight, very entertaining. McCumby, virtually unknown. Plant, trying to get himself back in the mix. Obviously, he had the Canelo loss, he had the David Benavidez loss, got that KO against Darrell, but this was a tough fight for him. And then let's just give our last thoughts on Lara Garcia, and then we can move on to that fight, which was a lot more exciting, which probably should have been the co-main, but just staying on the topic of Lara Garcia. I mentioned last podcast that I thought it was a disgrace that this fight was for a title. I mean, Garcia never had fought at 160, didn't look good at 154. Not sure why he got a title shot, but I mean, I guess the name, right? The name, it was big enough to be on a Canelo undercard and try to sell more tickets, try to sell more pay-per-views. As we saw, he did not deserve the title shot. So let's go ahead and move on, man. We'll see if Lara gets that Canelo fight, Chris. 10 years later.
Hey, I don't think he gets that payday, but hey, he's trying to make a case for himself.
All right. Well, let's move on, man. As I stated, Caleb Plant against MAGA McCumby, Chris.
McCumby.
23-2 now. Caleb Plant, 14 KOs, 32 years old. He didn't get the KO in this one. I believe I predicted a stoppage. Oh, actually, he did, man. What am I thinking? It was such a tough fight that I thought it went the distance. But, I mean, look, I don't know. I thought McCumby could have continued. Plant, as you see it there, down in round 4. Might have gone down before that. The referee counted a series of slips there, quote unquote. But, Plant had a tough time against McCumby, who, as I said, was virtually unknown, but he showed tremendous power in this one. I mean, look at his record before this. He was 28-0 with 21 knockouts. Obviously not fighting the toughest opposition, but I think he proved that he belonged, Chris. And I posted an interesting poll of who people want to see Berlanga next, and he was one of the names on there. So I'll take a look at the numbers. I haven't looked at it yet, but I think McCumby definitely put himself kind of in the mix. I'm hearing people say, oh man, he should fight Berlanga next, or he should fight a guy like Diego Pacheco next. I think they're bringing this guy back.
Yeah, like you said, Gio, he was virtually an unknown. I think I was introduced to him when you first called him MAGA. I was like, okay, who's this guy? Well, what's going on back here? So yeah, that's the thing about these unknowns, right? They've been obviously padding their records. those records are gonna look nice when you're not fighting anybody. But it's what you do when you go up against some recognizable names that you're like, okay, this guy maybe didn't win, but I like this style. I like his heart. That's the way you become you get noticed by the fans. And we have a fight next, this coming week with another guy that's virtually unknown. And hey, maybe he could take a look at this fight with McCumby and say, you know what, I want to make a small statement here or there. But yeah, Caleb Plant again, like you said, Gio, this was an entertaining fight. That's the thing we love about boxing. Sometimes we think we know the answer. Sometimes we think we're gonna, get the decision that we all expect, and something like this happens. You're like, whoa, So again, like I think this is fight of the year, not fight of the night. It kind of stole the show a little bit from the main event. But yeah, man, props to Caleb Plant. He just continues to raise his stock. He continues to walk out of that square circle with more fans than what he came in. So again, Caleb Plant, even in touching the canvas, was able to walk away with some Mexican fans.